You're here in this place right now, and it's a safe space, and there's nothing else to think about. You can leave all the thoughts of your past outside this room, and any concerns about a possible future are just thoughts, just fantasies, and have no iota of reality to them. So as you breathe in, feel the expansion of the chest and the belly and the shoulders, and feel everything just get bigger and bigger. And then when you release the breath, just feel the weight of all of the muscles relaxing, leaving the skeleton to support the frame. Every unnecessary muscle can just be perfectly at ease. And feel as though your head is being supported by a thin filament from the sky or some sort of balloon filled with helium, that's keeping it suspended with no weight. Now, as you come into the body, I'd like you to bring your focus to whatever part of the body feels the most dense to you. We usually say that I feel like I am the body. I am synonymous with this body. And there's something about it that feels solid to us. Now, obviously, we know now from modern physics that the body is 99% empty space, but we don't feel it that way. We feel like we're a very heavy, dense little unit having to sometimes fight its way out of the bed in the morning and using all its willpower and all its intention to drag itself around the house, to go to work, to come home, to make dinner, and then eventually to drag itself back to bed again to do it all again the next day. But we want to feel now into what it is that seems to be this dense, solitary unit. So do a quick scan from the top of your body down to the soles of the feet, and take note of any place that feels particularly dense, particularly heavy, particularly solid. Hopefully you have a sense of something right now that feels particularly heavy. And then I want you to scan from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet one more time. This time, say the word I, or me, or your name, if that works best for you. And I want you to find if there is any correlation between the spots that light up or jump out to you when you say I, or me, or your name, and the ones that feel heavy and dense and solid. If so, now I'd like you to take whichever area seemed the most dense and that lit up the most when you said I or me or your name. I want you to focus all of your attention on that spot. Feel into what is actually there. If it feels like a solid, dense rock, you know that there probably isn't a physical, solid, dense rock in the body, but we don't really question what it actually is that we're experiencing. So I want you to, using your attention, which is a combination of internal mental image and very clear felt sense, a very clear feeling of the felt sense in the body. And I want you to have a clear image of what it is that you're feeling in that dense place. Notice if this ball of tension, this ball of density, starts to change a little as you put more of your awareness on it. Notice what it is that makes something feel dense. Is it because there's a subtle comparison to the spaciousness that's right around it? Is it that you feel density because it seems located in a space uniquely concentrated compared to the area immediately adjacent to it? So, very gently comparing those two, take note of what is the difference between the seeming open space around that dense sensation and the density itself. Does the dense area seem to be tingling or pulsing or throbbing or contracted in a way that feels different from what's maybe sensed as a sort of neutrality in the space around it? Can you get any feeling of movement or vibration or positivity or negativity in that space around that dense area? So we know that something feels somewhat different in the density versus the openness surrounding it. But what are we actually feeling in that dense space? You can start with labels like tingling, buzzing, pulsing, vibrating, but those are just labels. Those are ways that we might describe it to someone else, but they fall short of encapsulating the actual experience. So don't worry about using any thoughts, any labels, any words, or even any images really to describe it. I'd like you to absorb all of the attention, all of the witnessing of the sensation into that sensation. Take note of how it changes as you are absorbing the seeming witnesser into the sensation itself. Is it expanding? Is it becoming less dense? Is it becoming more alive? Is it becoming neutralized? You may experience things different from the person sitting next to you, and that's perfectly okay. Just get very curious about what your experience of density is. You notice if you still have a sense of a witnesser, an observer, apart from the sensation itself. If that spot initially felt like the locus of you, the midpoint of your experience, then how can there be something separate from it, taking it in and observing it? Can an eye see itself without a mirror? Notice if there's a mental image which has anything to do with your body, your face, perhaps a mental image of a vision of what that sensation might feel like, a visual correspondence of it, and see if there seems to be a sense of distance that is implied by this picture that's appearing somewhere in the mental field. Is this image, if one is appearing, actually the witnesser? Is it just an image of a face, of a body, or of a cloud of particles or light, whatever's showing up? If the thought is recognized as a thought, then the thought cannot be the thinker. What is being seen cannot be what is seeing. We're still implying a duality here. So keep the attention on what seemed like a dense field and is now maybe expanded out or changed in some undefinable way, and see what in your experience seems to be separate from that field. Is there really anything separate from the sensation as it appears? If you get a feeling of a watcher or an observer or a sensor or a subject separate from it, dissect that experience. See whether it's showing up in a felt sense in the body, perhaps somewhere in the back or somewhere in the head, someplace that gives the indication that I am here and the sensation is somewhere separate from it. And just notice what's there. Notice that it's just two feelings of sensation appearing in the same basic sense field. And if you have a mental overlay that is giving you an image of yourself somewhat separate from the sensation, recognize that that is also not you. That is just an image appearing in this same space as the felt sense. And if you hear my voice coming out of the speaker, and there seems to be a distance between the one hearing the sound, the idea that there is one who is understanding the words, translating them into something meaningful, and that that is all separate from this feeling of density or cloud of sensation. Just recognize that what is happening is more raw sensory experience, just sensation, just sound, and just internal images, all happening in the same indefinable sense space. And you find a you, a subject, a witnesser, an observer in any of those parts. Can it be that sensation simply arises and needs no seer, hearer, smeller, taster, feeler in order to recognize and make sense of these sensations? Can it be that there is no distance between the physical sensation and the recognition of that physical sensation? Because it is all one in the same process. The sensing of the feeling is the feeling itself. The hearing of the sound is the hearing itself. And there's no separation between any of it. The impression that there is a you inside who is doing these things, who is seeing these things, who is feeling these feelings, that's an unnecessary mental layer. It's something which creates duality and feelings of separation and struggle, and the implication that you can and must do things for a purpose, that there are consequences if you do not step up to the plate and do things correctly. There are implications that you are the one who is a good person, a bad person, a shameful person, a saint, a sinner. All of our suffering comes needlessly out of this false conclusion that there must be somebody seeing in order for sights to be seen. It's a problem with our language, but there's no problem with the actual appearance of anything. What appears just appears. What seems to be dense only appears to be dense. The more we put our attention on it, the more we recognize that what is taken to be a dense sensation in the body is just a cloud of floating, tingling, effervescent, changing particles of sensation. What was taken to be the locus of a me is just a thought overlaid on a cloud of sensation. What was taken to be the one who has to do things, who has a history and a pattern of victimhood or shameful behavior, or being the one who always has to do everything for everyone, or being the one who's always correct. All of that is just a mental overlay that has no reality and bears no relation to anything going on in the body or in the sense fields. So I'd like you to, before we end, scan back through the body from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet and see if there's any place that lights up when you say I, me, or your name. And if anything jumps out at you, just take a quick moment to look at it, feel what's there, see if there is a mental image, if there is a sense of density in that area, if there is a memory about yourself, perhaps even one of those very nebulous, difficult to pin down conceptual overlays of me as I see myself that can be tied in almost instantly with a particular sensation. And just recognize it for what it is. Let it be there, and then come back to the feeling of the spaciousness around that density. And recognize that if you can sense it, then that density is no more you than the sensation around it. That there's no more validity in the idea that I am located behind my eyes, or in my chest, or in my belly, or in my right big toe. Now gradually bring your attention down to the soles of your feet and feel them resting against the ground. Feel the heaviness of your bottom on the seat, your back if it's resting against a chair. Feel the density in your shoulders and your head. Coming back into the body, but also recognizing that what we take to be that heaviness and that density, the solidity, is just an illusion that makes it easy to navigate a world of objects. But we don't need to maintain that illusion to the extent that it creates a sense of me who is piloting this body through a world of objects. We can navigate life with a deep, deep understanding that it is life just lifing, that it is hearing, being heard by the sound itself, that in the seeing there is simply the seen, in the feeling there is simply the felt, and in the cognizing simply the cognized. And as you're ready, you can gradually open your eyes and come back into the room.